guys is I do have a hard out at 45 minutes. So typically these run about 30, 35 because of the time at the beginning. But the way I figure it is nobody wants to listen to anybody bullshit for much longer than that anyway.
Yeah.
So, I'm real excited about this one. It took us a little while to put it together, but I have two well-respected rock writers by myself, definitely. And if you guys don't mind, Peter, will you introduce yourself and tell me where you are and what you do?
I am Peter Aaron, and I'm in Kingston, New York, and I am a musician and a journalist and collector of crap.
I think we all become that eventually.
Yeah.
I can already tell by your background that yours is cooler than mine.
Yeah. Well, we'll let use our imagination.
That's true. 100%. 100%. Mike, I know you're here in Cincinnati with me. Tell me who you are, what you do.
I'm Mike Breen. I don't do anything anymore. I lay on my couch and watch movies.
Right.
But I'm a writer and editor, and up until a month ago, I worked at Cincinnati CityBeat Alt Weekly. As a managing editor there, and also mostly doing the music stuff there. So
yeah.
I should say at the same time that Mike was furloughed from his position, I was furloughed from my position as the arts editor of a magazine here called Chronogram, which I've been with since 2006.
Wow, that's tenure, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, you see, I was going to allude to this before, but I wanted you to hear it too. I've been excited to talk to you guys, but at the same time, a lot of the people I've been talking to have been extremely fortunate. They're either continuing to work or they're maintaining somehow, and you guys are like representative of what's a terrible shame is that in tough times, to me, things that seem real essential, like the stuff you do to get everybody else through, is like the first shit to go.
Yeah.
It's just like, so I mean, we started, Mike, you can back me up on this. I figure the 13th, March 13th, Friday the 13th was really when the shit came down in Cincinnati, Ohio, anyway.
Yeah, I think the 18th was the day I got the news that CityBeat was basically emptying the staff.
Right.
Cut it down to 2, and then they've just kept on two people to write for the website. I think they might be putting out an issue this week, actually.
Really? I mean, like a physical issue.
Yeah, just to keep it afloat. And it is a furlough thing, like Peter said. So there's a chance that if we survive this, but who knows? It's so
right.
like up in the air. But both of those, weekly papers are dependent on restaurants, clubs,
bars,
bars. That's all the advertising. There's nothing anymore.
And like I'm basically the equivalent of what you do, Mike, in the area that I live in. Although I'm with the monthly.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's like there's nothing for me to write about anyway because I write about events. I mean, I'm trying to. The May issue that we're doing is going to be online only, and the plan is to relaunch the print in January. That's the last I heard.
Wow.
So, we'll see how that goes, but at least last I heard that was the plan. So
does it? I mean, I mean, obviously, I can only be objective because I don't really know what the business is like as far as details go. But isn't a projection like our next print issue will be January? Isn't that somehow heartening?
Not January. Did I say January?
Yeah, I thought.
I said, okay. June.
Okay.
June.
Because the idea, I was like, wow, if they're projecting January, then they seem pretty solid if they think they can last out the rest of the year.
I'm sorry, man. June.
Yeah, no, that's okay. No, that's totally fine, and that makes sense. But it's the same thing. It's just a little quicker, a little sooner. Isn't it kind of heartening that the projection's being made, that they're thinking that this is a real possibility rather than the thought process like it's all over?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think, I mean, that was sort of like that's the plan at this time. And I got the notice like the Monday after Mike got his. So, it's day-to-day thing, I guess. What I'm doing now is I'm sort of working on something, sort of a reflection. They've just asked some people to just sort of reflect on what they're going through. For that will sort of be the theme of the next issue.
Right.
And I'm also.
It's going to be universal.
Yeah. So that's what I'm doing now, but that's all. Nobody's getting paid for that. It's all, but it's to keep the ball rolling.
Yeah. Well, I mean, shit. Now, Peter, reflecting my public education, Kingston is what, an hour outside of New York City?
It's 2 hours. Just
2
about
hours?
2 hours. Yeah. It was the original state capital of New York.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Didn't know that either.
Yeah, first state capital, and then they moved it to Albany during the Revolution to be farther away from the action after the city was burned by the
Right. The sacking
So,
of
yeah.
NYC. Yeah. So, I mean, how's it been? I mean, can I be so bold as to ask if you guys have both filed unemployment?
Want me to go? Yeah. I mean, Ohio has been really hard to get through. I've filed 3.5 weeks now, and I've gotten everything's pending. I've gotten no money, you can't get a hold of anybody to talk to. It's really
That was
hard.
my next question. Is there any communication?
Not at all. And it's,
Ugh.
You kind of have to understand too, like this is new ground for them too. So you can't be mad about it, really.
Right. When you're getting your usual annual totals in a single day and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It kind of is what it is. I mean, I've managed to finally bust through on the website and do it, and then just trying to call was just like impossible to get through.
Right.
And then they sort of adapted and caught up with things where it was as long as you filled everything out online, they would be calling you. And I did get a call the next day, and of course it was like when I was out running, and the same person called like 3 times in a row, like a minute apart. They didn't even...
Right, because you're gonna get home in one of those minutes.
Yeah. So I haven't got any calls since then. That was this past Saturday. So.
Is that call contingent on the benefits being put through? Do you know?
Yeah, I think it's sort of like it's a follow-up interview that they have to do, I guess, just to make sure that you're a real person and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, God.
But, I haven't gotten the check yet either.
Those
things.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, did you guys get yours or?
Yeah, I haven't gotten anything yet. To tell you the truth, until Brian Driscoll, in fact, told me he had a friend who had received a stimulus. I wasn't 100% certain that it was genuine.
No, I had some people last night said that like someone I knew in California got theirs.
Yeah. I lost a lot of faith when there was a 2-week window between this is happening now and then the next time I heard a report that this was happening now.
Yeah.
That's kind of with the state. The federal government is supposed to add on to the unemployment, like $600 weekly.
Right. Yeah.
So I read all this, but I'm the same thing. I'm like, I don't believe it. I'll believe it when I see it. But
when you see it.
Really,
I've been very
fortunate. Is not instilling confidence right now.
I don't want to devolve into that discussion because I'm 100% certain we could all go on forever about the circumstances with our federal government right now.
Yeah.
But I've been real fortunate. I mean, America's great right now, right?
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Are you protecting some family members here, Scott? You don't want to get too deep in the.
No, I mean, I don't give a fuck about the way people think. People think of what I think. I mean, I've made very clear that I'm not real happy with what the circumstances are. I mean, we've got an absolute fucking xenophobic nut job running the fucking country and claiming total control. It's just like I just.
Yeah.
To me, the most dismaying portion of the program is the people that are out there that, in most cases, could pass for relatively intelligent that seem to still think it's all okay. I'm just like, I have no idea. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
I'm with you. Yeah.
It's terrifying. And that's the thing is, you know, I said with no uncertain terms, 100% we're all on the same page. But the thing is I have this thought process that I think 100% of everybody I know should be on this page. It just seems like
Sure.
a fucking no-brainer.
Yeah.
But
Well,
anyway, I digress.
yeah.
From,
Yeah.
I mean, despite the fact that, you know, where we are is you know, the circumstances we're in, the way the numbers are, the way things have shaken out. There's a lot of responsibility that lays there. A lot of this could have been prevented. You know, we could have done this when the weather was worse, and it would have been better. You know, if
Yeah.
we'd
Yeah.
started earlier. You know.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
You know, but the fact is that we, you know, we're here. Here we are, and the best we can hope for is we don't fuck it up, so we have to do it again, or whatever the
Yeah.
case might be. So, but what do you guys think? I mean, what's your sense of how this is gonna shake out?
I mean, I guess obviously, there's going to be, unfortunately, more people are going to be dying. That's, and hopefully that is starting to subside slowly, which is what we've been hearing. I guess my hope is that we'll come out of. I mean, we'll get through this. I know we'll get through this.
Yeah,
That
we'll
I
still
know.
be around.
Yeah, but I think that we'll come out of it wiser. Some hard lessons, but we'll come out of it wiser. Something we'll have learned from it. Um, it definitely doesn't do any good to be a cynic or a pessimist. I mean, you have to be a realist, but it doesn't help anything in the long time to be,
Good point.
you know.
It's a good point. There's a lot to be said, you know, and that's one of the themes I've been beating people about the head and face with,
Mhm.
is the idea that, you know, I mean, because a lot of the talk right now is about the economy. The last few days, I've heard less talk about the records we're breaking for new cases and deaths every day, and I'm hearing more about the debate over when we're going back to normal. And obviously, normal is not going to be the same.
Yeah.
But it's but I understand it. I mean, there's got to be some kind of thought process that it's that there's a goal, that there's a mutual thing we all have to reach. The economy has to keep moving.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I don't know, Mike. What do you think? What do you think's going to happen?
I try not to think about it, honestly. Like I used to be a news like junkie, and
You can't
I
do
can't.
that now.
I used to open Twitter every day. And it's still kind of an instinct of mine, but I look on it and I just get so like down with like people arguing and yeah, everything you're talking about. But I've gone to the old things you can't control kind of ideology. Like there's
Right.
nothing I can do.
Right.
Like I can't. This is all out of my control, and
I struggle with
that's
that.
like comforting.
I struggle with that, and I know a lot of people do. Part of it is because I comment and repost stuff a lot, and a lot of people I know are sort of that they're not crazy about that because it's like, why dwell on the negative, and but on the other hand, it's and I do think there's a fine line, but on the other hand, that's how things get changes, that people don't forget about things, and keep them at the forefront, and
Yeah.
get
No.
incentivized to like actually do something.
No, that I think that it's really, really important. I don't think it's being negative, and I liked the distinction you made before about realistic versus negative. I don't think it's being negative to point out the shit that's wrong,
Yeah.
the shit that's messed up. I mean,
Yeah,
but
I get desperate when I see the science deniers and the like that
uh,
this is all a hoax, that this is all
uh,
it just drives me crazy. I mean, it's so disheartening. It's like that's the kind of stuff that just breaks me. Like
yeah, me
those are
too.
the people who are getting people sick.
Because there's a
That's
vast
Yeah.
sea of them. There's a vast sea of those people.
right.
Yeah.
And my father always referred to the average American as the great unwashed. And
Yeah.
but it's just I don't know about you guys, but in my lifetime, I really feel like the IQs have diminished considerably for the general population. It's
Well,
terrifying. Again,
I mean, yeah, it's proportionate to the rise of technology, isn't it?
Yeah, like yeah. How many? How the three of us right now, but between the three of us, when we were each 20 years old, I bet each one of us could rattle off 100 different phone numbers.
Oh
And now
yeah,
I can't.
sure.
Now I can't remember three.
Oh yeah, I couldn't give you my mom's phone number. You know?
Right.
Oh, I can give you
Uh,
my mom's phone number from when I was 20. It's five
oh
four
yeah,
two
yeah,
nine one
I
six
can.
zero.
Yeah, I can from when I was like 10 years old or something. But
Right.
yeah. But
Right.
that's memorization. That's we're talking about
Native intelligence, logical conclusion drawing.
yeah, yeah, basic stuff like that.
That is the one thing about this is, the kind of conspiracy theories. It's that idea that when your brain can't like this doesn't make any sense. We don't have any like context for this. And your
Yeah,
brain wants to say, well, this has to be something, like 9/11,
Right.
your brain,
Right.
this has to be something beyond what
Seizes
it
upon
was,
something. Yeah, it seizes upon something that's easier to understand.
Yeah. So it is like kind of, I don't know if it's intelligence so much as people being scared and desperate and,
yeah.
Right.
Well,
there are
and
probably
certainly
people that
just
are prone to that.
yeah, and just you have more of an assault of information, and you're just sort of it's confusing and disorienting, and then people fall into this sort of this sort of zone where they're focused on whatever is in front of them, and um their cognitive and reasoning is sort of marginalized.
Hampered to say the least. Well, that's the thing is the confusion has been deliberately, consciously sown for so long now that I mean, it's just I don't know.
Yeah, some of it's just yeah. I mean, it's um,
This
but
is way heavier than I expected it to be.
yeah, I didn't mean to.
It's okay. It
Yeah,
was my
yeah,
fault. It's my fault
yeah,
for going down this road.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of it is just it's just a natural, um, people just more, there's more to be distracted by,
Yeah.
people need to remind themselves not to be distracted, and I don't know how we get there, but certainly there was more to be distracted by in the 1950s than there was in 1880 or whatever.
Right. And same between now and then too.
Yeah,
Well, that was the thing, as Mike was saying before. I don't know what I can do, and I have that thought sometimes. And at the same time, I think, well, there's political action and blah blah blah. I mean, obviously, we can't all get together and protest anything now.
yeah.
But I mean, yeah, the distraction level's high, and it is really fucking important to remember to focus on the things that really matter. I think that's one of the only benefits of this. I mean, I guess for some people, it's an opportunity to spend quality time with immediate family members that you might not otherwise have had. It's definitely an opportunity for people to kind of reevaluate their position in the world and whether or not. I mean, I know people who this whole circumstance hasn't changed really anything for them,
Mhm.
and not to be judgmental or anything, but it makes me
Yeah,
wonder what the quality of life was like before.
yeah. Well, maybe it's just a matter of time before they just get impacted at a different, after a different amount of time than some other people. That's, I guess, weak. I mean, I say impacted. I mean in a way that will make them like want to do something. you know.
Yeah, or maybe be sociable. Something. I don't know. Well, here's the thing. What about the music industry? Now, you
Yeah.
guys are both writers about this. Pete, you alluded to before about how you write about events and the people that are involved with them and stuff. And there's a lot of stuff going around on social media about how concerts are never going to happen again. Which
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I don't. I said this the other night on one of these things where I said, yes, I would really love to go see a band with 400 of my closest friends and stand
Yeah.
sweaty against a stage shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't think that's going to ever happen again. I mean, are we really entering this new phase of human history where the communicable diseases is such a prevalent problem that it's not?
I don't think that that's the case at all, and maybe that's the optimist in me, because like I said, I
Which
mean,
I'm fine with.
yeah, well, you got to be that. You know what? You're doing no favors by not being. I mean,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think, like I said, I think we'll get through this and smarter and more proactive. And you know, I'm hoping it's not going to be 2021 like we've heard. But we'll get through it, man. We'll get back to it. You know, people want it. People are gonna, you know.
People are going to want. This goes back to what I was saying before about how, you know, what you guys do is, you know, it's not something that's necessarily equated with the economy, but these kinds of things, uh, shit. I mean, it's what makes life worth living.
Well, I'll say one more thing, and then I'll defer to Mike on this. But you know, I've sort of started working on this sort of mind overflow piece that I was talking about for the magazine earlier, and you know, that's sort of, I think, what I'm leading to as far as the great hope of it is that the people will take artists less for granted, and music, and they'll realize they'll miss it, and that could hopefully uh, you know, manifest it's that sort of reawakened appreciation will hopefully manifest itself as putting more actual value on that, you know, what we cover. um,
Sure.
so that's my hope.
I think that's a noble one. I mean, I couldn't agree. Mike, what do you think?
Well, this whole time I heard you talking about your son careening back and forth between like
Just
desperate and
great.
sad and
Yeah, God.
goofy, like, and I've been doing that with the same way. Like I'm right there, and I'm sometimes very optimistic because what else can you be? You know, like what else can you be? But when I have my
Peter's right.
pessimistic moment, I think about is this going to get over? And then people for like, you know, 3 weeks will be like, we really took restaurant workers for granted. We took grocery, you know, we took artists for granted. We took grocery store workers for granted, and then just kind of forget about it. Like,
That's the human nature, though.
yeah,
Sadly, you know, during
that-
the time of crisis, everybody's the most compassionate. You
yeah,
know, and that kind of compassion, sadly, 9 times out of 10, doesn't last much past the return of normalcy. That's kind
But
of why.
but
and
it
maybe
does it does
maybe
us no it does us it does us no good to you know, kind of perpetuate it being that way. You know, hopefully we can maybe bring up what happened more frequently, and remind people more.
Yeah.
um
yeah,
you know, I mean, I think that we have to. I mean, I and that goes back to not wanting to get back into political stuff, you know, but like, you know, I went to all kinds of demos and marches and everything the last year, and just like, I'm one of those people who never did any of that shit, and just then it just started hit me with what happened, you know, with Trump getting, and we just like, holy shit, like, uh, if we don't say anything about this shit, then it gets normalized, and just like, well, I guess I got to do this shit, you know.
Yeah.
It's definitely
hmm
not fun.
Yeah, and you know, I've had the same thought process, but I haven't done it. I'm ashamed to admit that there's been many opportunities here in Cincinnati. I'm sure, Mike, you've heard of some of them, and there was times when I talked to my son about going to these things, or my daughter, my wife, even, and we just, you know, life got in the way. You know, I was
Yeah,
busy
well, you definitely
cutting my
had to
grass
like,
and shit.
yeah, I mean, I definitely had to like, you know, make myself be like, well, yeah, it's easy. It's almost like blowing off the gym or something. You know, it's
Right.
easier. It's
yeah,
easier not to go to the gym or not be like, but it just like, you know what? It just like, if you know, I don't do my, and it's like, if I don't do my little part in this and try to hopefully get other people to like do it too, then it's not going to get done. No one's gonna, you know, obviously it's not, you know, no one's gonna do it for us. And I also came back to you like, well, if in the end it doesn't really do anything, at least I'll know I
You
tried.
tried.
It's something,
Yeah,
you
right.
know.
you
And
tried. You were on the right side of history.
yeah,
You know.
that's, you know, I mean, at least like, I'll go out with that, you know.
Sometimes that's what it comes down to. Sometimes that's the question, and here I am going back down the same path. But sometimes that's the question I have about the people that are not standing idly by, but vocally supporting everything that's going on. I just wonder how they can live with themselves. Sorry.
Yeah, well, I mean, hopefully they'll just, they'll like at least a good amount of them will sort of like, kind of like cave in after, other
I
people.
keep waiting.
Yeah.
Me and
We
both
got
you
to
guys,
do it anyway and not worry about it,
right? Stand up for what's right,
What
no
about,
matter
are
no
you
matter
guys
what.
playing, you're playing, not to steer the conversation away, but you're playing in Band Cistern you were talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah. Me, Steve Gurton, Bill Furby, Brent Donaldson.
And are you playing, Mike? Are you doing anything?
I'm not right now.
Should be.
Any,
But I do play at home.
Get this
That's something that
acapella
I.
app. Sorry, I'm kidding.
That's something I've been like on a personal level, Scott. You were talking about like kind of relationships with family, like immediate
Mhm.
family and stuff. On a personal level too, I don't know if you guys are doing this, but I'm kind of learning a lot about myself. Like
yeah,
there's
I'm
something
learning.
about losing my job. Like you kind of think about like your identity. I
Sure,
was Mike Breen from CityBeat for 25 fucking years. Like,
sure.
wow,
and you
man,
lose that. Like it's like, oh wait, who am I? Like, what's my self-worth? And
sure,
you
yeah,
get to the
Yeah.
bare base of it.
No,
That's been really.
what you do becomes what you are, and that's that's what I was saying before. I've largely talked to people that have been very fortunate this whole circumstance. I mean, that's I mean, do you, just out of curiosity, do you try and structure your day for just like sanity's sake?
I have like recently, and that's what I was kind of getting to with music. I've gone back to that as a, like, I'm not a good singer, but I love to like just
You're
get my guitar.
reasonable.
I love to just get the
I'm
guitar
not,
out and
man.
sing loudly, and I just sit there and I'm learning like 10 songs, and I just go through them. And
Sure.
just that act of, it's almost like a breathing exercise or something, it's like,
Yeah,
I don't know, that's been really helpful, which I don't think, I don't know, through my life, I've gone like, oh yeah, I can play guitar. And that's such a healing thing for me. Like,
yeah,
I'm so lucky I
It
have that,
is. You're making something out of nothing. It's one of the things that attracted all of us to music,
yeah.
Right.
is the fact that you can like be one with the atmosphere just by the sounds you're putting in it. That's
And listening to music, the same thing, just reminding yourself, oh yeah, there's music to soothe
yeah,
you and comfort you. And like,
right.
I kind of forget that sometimes when I'm like, you get so anxious and worked up, and then you're like, oh yeah, music exists. Like, how
Yeah, it
lucky.
does.
Yeah.
And sometimes you do have to listen to Atari Teenage Riot and punch holes in the wall. I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
Peter, have you been playing at all?
Yeah, I've been doing a little bit of that actually. It's funny because last night this radio station in Germany guy messaged me and he asked
I've
if I
never heard anybody say that.
yeah. Well, one in New Zealand messaged me that the week before and asked me to do like a little station ID for him and recommend some tracks that I've been digging. And then last night, this one in Germany, the guy asked if I could. I guess it was a big Chrome Cranks fan that's a regular listener of his show, and he said, "Hey, would you record some kind of weird solo version of this one song? I think she would really flip out." And so I did a unprepared, unrehearsed acoustic version of one of the tunes that when
That's awesome.
yeah, and on a acoustic on my phone and sent it to him. I guess they're gonna play it on Friday, and so.
That's
And then
awesome.
Brian Chase, who's the drummer in Yeah Yeah Yes, he and I have had this noise-free improv duo going on and off over the last couple of years. And so he's stuck at home in Brooklyn, and he asked me to send him something, and he's gonna like.
And he said, "Send me
around.
something, anything."
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, and which works with what we do, So I just
Right.
do like a long like noise guitar thing, and he's running that through some phasers and phase shifters, and he's gonna put drums to it, and we're gonna put it online, I guess.
See, that's the thing is, I've got the silly garage band thing here. Any of us, and I'm here all the time. You guys ever want to send me, email me some tracks?
All right. Good.
We
Good
could
at like
we
assigning.
could all postal service all day
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's great. Yeah. Okay. All right, man. All right.
without a doubt. You know, Peter, this whole thing about radio stations in other part of the country just calling you for input. You know, I want to throw this out here, and I warned you I was going to do this. This is because of the books, right?
Oh. Well, I guess I don't know. I use it. Yeah.
Sure.
Um. Yeah. What do you want? What about the books? What do you want in?
Okay, so I have one question because you know having at least known you as an associate years ago, acquaintance I mean years ago, I watched with fascination as these books come out, but I was very
Okay.
confused. It's like the Ramones books made sense to me. The Richie Ramone book, you got them in front of you. I know better now. The ghostwritten autobiography of Richie Ramone,
Yeah.
right? And then what was the next one?
The Richie.
This confuse. No, here's where I want to stop. This confuses me.
Okay. And then
No,
this was the first one.
yeah, the very first one. And I actually had that at one point, but someone stole it from me. But the band thing, and you know, I mean, maybe this is just a reflection of my narrow-mindedness, but there's something that seems diametrically opposed between the band and the Ramones.
Well, I mean, this is I live in the area where the band is, was from, and so,
Revered and from.
sure, yeah, and I mean, it's honest music, and it drew from like, uh, the best music of the past, blues and country and jazz and R&B and gospel and all that, and I also, I wanted to know more about them, and they
A
all,
hell of a story, right?
yeah, it's
I
crazy.
mean that it is.
Yeah, so my publisher asked if who I'd done the first Ramones book with,
Mm-hmm.
asked if I wanted to do it, and I thought like, well, that's how you learn about something, and which I'm sure Mike can relate to, probably going into writing about artists and bands that he didn't know that much about before, and
Right.
so yeah, I mean it was
The work is its own reward.
yeah, and people have said that I pulled it off, so
I've actually heard that.
yeah. So.
Can I say something about Peter? I was just thinking today, like, you were such a like pivotal person, like for me, like coming of age in music, like as a musician, but as a fan too, like in Cincinnati,
Me
like
too.
bringing Killing to town and Jesus Lizard, like seeing those little shows.
Nice strong
But also
arm.
like the bands I was in, you would always book. You were always so kind to us, like when
Oh, thanks,
nobody
man.
else would have been. I mean, just yeah. I think you booking guys sometimes get overlooked when how important you got.
You
Even
gotta say
up
you
here,
gotta
like
say promoter. You promoter.
promoter. Sorry,
Yeah.
I never know the right word for that. You're right. Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
but
thanks,
thank you.
man.
I appreciate everything.
Hey, man. Well, thanks, man. I mean, you always had good bands. I mean, Plastic Jesus was a great band. It was.
That's right. You put us on that atavistic collection. That
Oh, right. Yeah. And yeah. That was which was the first Chrome Cranks thing too.
That's right.
We
Yeah.
had out. And I should say, Scott, man, with Imminent, that was the first article ever written about the Chrome Cranks. So,
you know what's funny is I can't even remember if I actually wrote that.
that was Kevin.
Oh, Kevin did. God bless him.
Yeah. Well,
Peter,
and thanks for the stuff that you do, Mike, too, because it's
Mike
appreciated the coverage and
Mike made a career of something that I tried haphazardly to do for 18 months.
Oh, if I like to think if I was still in Cincinnati, I would have had your job.
Right.
But since I'm not, I'm glad you're the guy that has it.
Right on.
Well, I was going to say, depending on how apocalyptic things get, you guys might have to arm wrestle for the same job at some point.
Oh man. Well, you could bat it back and
People
forth.
still need to tell stories and make music, and there's going to be plenty of that to go around forever, I think. So
absolutely, yeah. I'm
God, I hope so.
I'm getting together. And Mike wrote about this.
Yeah. The curator of the Cincinnati collection.
So it was like one of those things like, well, I got to do this or else, you know, I have to do this. You know,
Who else would do it, right?
it seemed like nobody else was you know, was doing it, but then I'm working on trying to get together the next one right now. So
Awesome.
Do you guys ever get a sense, because you know, having known you both at least, you know, remotely, do you ever get a sense that if you didn't do this, if you didn't document it, that it would somehow be lost?
Document this
Bands,
time.
events, just anything. Just is there ever a circumstance where you feel like this has to happen, this has to be written, or it's going to be lost?
Oh, I do think about that with CityBeat. I'm glad there's like it is kind of like a record of the past 25 years of music and culture and arts in Cincinnati, which is, I
Sure.
mean, it is good to just have somebody document that, you know?
sure, because there's
Yeah.
probably a lot of stuff that wouldn't get covered if you weren't the person doing it. You know.
Oh, I know that's true.
Yeah.
You
I mean,
mentioned
and
sorry, go ahead, Peter.
well, I was gonna say I definitely feel like you say, you know. I mean, like with this compilation, there was a couple of bands on there that would have just totally been, I think, lost to time if I didn't, you know.
That no one would recall for whatever reason, and they were very
Yeah.
worth recollection.
Yeah.
Kevin Donahue, God rest his soul. Peter, he always referred to you as $3, and once I called him out on it, I said, "Why do you say that?" And he goes, "It's all I've ever heard him say. $3, $3."
And people whined about that back then.
I know. I look back on the bands I saw for $3, and I think to myself, Jesus.
And we
Christ.
kept it $3 for like 5 or 6 years. You know, I mean.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
average.
Cincinnati was behind the rest of the economy.
Well,
Listen.
Nobody had money, so you know.
And you needed people there, otherwise it wouldn't have seemed as much fun.
Right.
Listen, I can't thank you guys both enough for doing this. Are you guys willing to do this again sometime? Like, can we touch base in a couple of weeks and see how things are going for you?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
man. That'd be fun.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys so much. Like I said, I'm up against this hard deadline, and I just want to kind of close it out without you guys just getting cut off. So thanks again very much. Be safe. Take care. Listen, you guys, reach out anytime you ever need anything, and I'll try and be here for you.
Yeah, likewise. And tag us when it's up.
I will do. Thank you guys very much. Have a great night.
Thanks, you guys.
Bye, Mike.
See ya.
Bye.